Hello again, it's me Chaz back with another video. This is my CONCACAF Round 2 Match Day 3 World Cup Qualifying Review. That's a mouthful. Anyway, these matches took place in June of this year, so this video is way overdue. There's quite a few things that have happened in the CONCACAF since Match Day 3 and Match Day 4 in the second round of the World Cup qualifying, including the Gold Cup, which is the regional tournament in the CONCACAF. Mexico once again won that tournament. And the third round of the World Cup qualifiers for the CONCACAF have also started. They started this month. But I'm still going to do this video. So the CONCACAF will be the region, the confederation to host this World Cup, the 2026 World Cup. It will be hosted by Mexico for the third time. Mexico now being the first nation to ever host the World Cup on 3 different occasions. The USA for the second time, and Canada would also be hosting the World Cup for the first time in their history. With those 3 nations hosting the World Cup, they would all automatically qualify for the 2026 World Cup, leaving space for other nations in the CONCACAF to qualify for the World Cup again, or in some cases, potentially the first time. The 2026 World Cup would have the most nations ever from the CONCACAF to represent the region. A total of 6 nations from the CONCACAF, 3 who I already mentioned, the host nations, and potentially another 2 nations from the Interconfederations playoffs could also compete at the 2026 World Cup from the CONCACAF, which means the possible maximum amount of nations from the CONCACAF that could play in 2026 is a total of 8. Alright then, so the second round works like this. The top 2 nations in each group, there's a total of 6 groups, will qualify for the third round of the CONCACAF World Cup qualifiers. The third round is the final round, and that round is where nations from this region will qualify for the 2026 World Cup. Because the amount of matches or nations, I'm going to split my videos up into 2. So this match day 3 video would be one of 2. I'm going to focus on group A, B and C, and in the second video I'll be focusing on group D, E and F. And usually I start with the first group that I've mentioned, and that is group A, so you start there. So group A, there's a total of 5 teams in each group, and the nations in group A is Antigua and Bermuda, Cayman Islands, Cuba and Honduras. Honduras and Cuba are the only 2 nations in this group that have qualified for the World Cup before. Cuba qualifying for the World Cup on one occasion back in 1938 in France. Honduras has qualified for 3 World Cups themselves, most recently back in 2014 and 2010. We're going to start with the game between Bermuda and the Cayman Islands, which ended in a 5-0 win for Bermuda. 11 minutes into the game, a penalty was given to Bermuda. Zico Luis scored on his birthday, should mention, to give Bermuda the lead. That would be his second goal in World Cup qualifiers. He did score in Bermuda's defeat to Honduras last year. The game was pretty even in the first half. Despite the scoreline, the game was quite close. Till the 54th minute in the second half, Bermuda would double their lead. Prophet Williams would get a goal and assist from Luis, make it 2-0. He would also assist himself. Prophet Williams would assist for Cole Hall's goal in the 64th minute. Bermuda being 3-0 up against the Cayman Islands. Lambie would score in the 79th minute for Bermuda, 4-0, and Carpenter will finish the scoring for Bermuda. Big win there for them over the Cayman Islands. That's a 5-0 win. Bermuda would be in second position, while Cayman Islands would drop to 4th. That match took place on the 4th of June. 2 days later, Antigua and Barbuda would take on Cuba. The first and only goal in this game came 8 minutes into injury time in the first half. Pedro Bravo would score for Cuba, giving them the lead and the win. 4 minutes into injury time in the second half, Antigua would pick up a red card. Leroy Graham would get sent off. With this win for Cuba, Antigua and Bermuda would be eliminated and cannot qualify for this World Cup. That match took place on the 6th of June. And finally, the final game I'm going to mention, once again, another match with Cayman Islands. They had a second chance to try and qualify. They went up against the group leaders, Honduras. Cayman Islands definitely put up a better fight here, but they would still end up losing to Honduras. Very late on, an own goal from them. Wesley Robinson would score an own goal. Unfortunately for Cayman Islands, that would give Honduras the win, and that would also eliminate the Cayman Islands from qualifying for the 2026 World Cup. For Honduras, that win there would put them into the next round. So at the end of match day 3 games, Honduras already qualified. Match day 4 fixtures, Cuba went up against Bermuda. Those were second and third going up against each other to see who would get that final spot to move into the third round. The game between Honduras and Antigua and Barbuda, there was nothing at stake in that game. I should mention that Bermuda would be the team to finish second in this group and go through to the next round. I will discuss that game between them and Cuba a bit more when I talk about match day 4. But yeah, that was Group A. Gonna move on from Group A and now discuss Group B. Alright, so the nations in Group B, we have Bahamas, Costa Rica, Grenada, St. Kitts and Nevis, and Trinidad and Tobago. In this group, there has been a total of 2 nations in the past who have qualified for the World Cup. Those nations are Costa Rica and Trinidad and Tobago. Costa Rica reaching the quarterfinals of the 2014 World Cup would probably be the best performance of any CONCACAF nation so far, or at least in this century. Trinidad and Tobago qualified for the World Cup once themselves. That was back in 2006. Alright, there was a lot of goals scored in this group. Every match had at least 6 goals scored in it. We'll start off with the game between Grenada and Bahamas, which ended in a 6-0 win for Grenada. 15 minutes in, Grenada would score thanks to a goal from Francis, an assist from Charles Cook in the 50th minute. Then in the 36th minute, Grenada would double their lead thanks to a goal from Johnson, and again another assist from Charles Cook. 2-0 in the first half for Grenada. They will continue to score in the second half. First in the 58th minute from Franciscus, and then in the 72nd minute from Isaac. 77th minute from Karak, and late on in the 90th minute from Lewis. Both Grenada and Bahamas started off this group both being at the bottom. And this is a good win, well, was a good win for Grenada there. But with this win for Grenada, it would knock out Bahamas, and they no longer could qualify for the 2026 World Cup. Okay, that match took place on the 4th of June. A couple of days later, Trinidad and Tobago took on St. Kitts and Nevis. This game ended in a 6-2 win for Trinidad and Tobago. Plenty of goals here. So we have in the 9th minute Garcia for Trinidad and Tobago gave them the lead. St. Kitts and Nevis do equalise in the 27th minute. Amori would score for Trinidad and Tobago, though they will go back in the lead in the 29th minute. Sealy would score. However, in the 45th minute, just before the end of the first half, Williams would equalise for St. Kitts and Nevis. That's 2-2 in the first half, lots of goals in the first half. More goals were scored in the second half though. In the 48th minute, Trinidad and Tobago was given a penalty. Molino will convert that penalty, which would restore Trinidad and Tobago's lead. Sealy would also score his second goal in this game, making the scoreline 4-2. Finally, Trinidad got 2 goals over St. Kitts and Nevis, and 2 more goals were scored late on. Fortune would score in the 85th minute, and 4 minutes later, James would score in the 89th minute, giving Trinidad and Tobago a 6-2 win over St. Kitts and Nevis. So big win for Trinidad and Tobago there. Finally, the last game I'm going to mention in this group, again involving Bahamas. They were beaten heavily earlier in this week by Grenada, and it was beaten even worse against Costa Rica. They would lose 8-0. 3 goals were scored in the first half by Costa Rica. Martinez in the 20th minute, Mora in the 37th minute, and 2 minutes in injury time, Bran would score 3-0 for Costa Rica first half. Second half, just 3 minutes into the second half, Gallo would score 4-0 for Costa Rica there. Then Ugalde would score in the 51st minute, 5-0. Madrigal would score in the 64th, and then the 79th minute to make it 7-0. And the final goal scorer for Costa Rica in this game against Bahamas, Zamora, would score. Huge win for Costa Rica there. And they qualified for the 3rd round after this win. Both St. Kitts and Nevis, as well as Bahamas, were both eliminated. They couldn't qualify for the next round, and will set up a good final day. Match day 4, St. Kitts and Nevis will go up against Grenada, and Costa Rica and Trinidad would also compete against each other. It was between Trinidad and Tobago and Grenada to see who would get that final spot. That would come down to goal difference. Trinidad would be the team to get the second spot, so both Costa Rica and Trinidad would qualify to the next round or go through to the next round. I've discussed those two games in my match day 4 review. Alright then, that was Group B. Let's move on to the final group in this video, and that's Group C. Alright then, Group C. The nations in Group C. We have Corsica, Haiti, St. Lucia, Aruba, and Barbados. Only one nation in this group has qualified for the World Cup in the past, just the one, but that nation is Haiti. They qualified for the 1974 World Cup. Alright, we're going to start off with a game between Barbados and Aruba, which ended in a 1-1 draw. Barbados was given a penalty in the 7th minute. Laycock would score that penalty for Barbados, giving them the lead there. 8 minutes later, Yo Dens for Aruba would equalise, making it 1-1. Lots of chances for both teams in this game, in both halves. Late on, 3 minutes in injury time in the second half, Barbados was given another penalty. Laycock would take the penalty again, but this time he would miss. Poor penalty. And with that miss, both Barbados and Aruba would both be eliminated and cannot qualify for the 2026 World Cup. Alright, the next match I'm going to discuss is the game between Corsica and St. Lucia, which ended in a 4-0 win for Corsica and a hat-trick for Gervain. Castaner scored a hat-trick, first goal in the 37th minute, taking a 1-0 lead into the second half. He would then score again in the 52nd minute and 57th minute, giving Corsica a 3-0 lead over St. Lucia. And then finally in the 74th minute, Bacona would make it 4-0. Great win for Corsica there. And with that win, that is how they were able to reach the 3rd round. This game would also eliminate St. Lucia from qualifying for the 2026 World Cup. And finally, the last game I'm going to mention is the game between Aruba and Haiti, which ended in a 5-0 win for Haiti. Jean Jacques would score in the 29th minute. Haiti took the lead there. Second goal came from Perrault in the 35th minute. 2-0 in the first half for Haiti. The third goal came in the 61st minute from Providence. And 6 minutes later, Nathan would score for Haiti. That would be 4-0. And the final goal was scored in the 86th minute from Prunier. Nathan with the assist there to him. And big win for Haiti. And with that win, they qualified for the 3rd round. And Aruba already eliminated. This group was finished before match day 4 really started anyway. St. Lucia took on Barbados and Haiti took on Corsica. That's the top 2 teams. Most games didn't matter. we knew the two nations that would be Kosovo and Haiti would go on to qualify for the third round. Okay, that was my round 2, match day 3 video for the CONCACAF World Cup qualifying for Group A, B and C. My next video, which would be about the CONCACAF, would focus on the other groups, that's Group D, E and F, and how the nations in those groups did back in match day 3. Anyway, thanks for watching, listening, appreciate it as usual, and